There is something your pain has been trying to teach you that comfort never could. Read that again in your heart. The deepest lessons of your life were never written during the days when everyone applauded you. They were written in the hours when nobody called, when nobody defended your name, when nobody stood beside you as false stories spread, and people formed opinions without ever asking for the truth. Those moments felt like punishment, but they were preparation. They felt like rejection, but they were revelation. You thought everything valuable was being taken from you, yet God was quietly removing every false foundation that could never support the future He was preparing. Think about it. If every person had stayed, would you have learned to lean completely on God? If every door had remained open, would you have recognized the one door that truly mattered? If every relationship had survived, would you have discovered which voices were leading you away from your purpose instead of toward it? Sometimes the greatest act of mercy is not adding more people to your life. Sometimes it is allowing the wrong people to leave before they have the opportunity to steal what God intends to build within you. That truth is difficult because it does not erase the ache. It does not instantly silence the memories, but it does transform the meaning of your suffering. You are no longer looking at broken pieces scattered across the floor. You are beginning to see that God has been separating what was temporary from what is eternal. The enemy of your peace has worked tirelessly to convince you that your identity depends on other people's opinions. That if enough people reject you, then perhaps you truly are unworthy. That if someone betrays you, perhaps you deserved it. That if your name is dragged through the mud, then your future must be buried there too. But those are not truths. They are traps. They are chains forged from fear, shame, and deception. God never designed you to measure your value by the changing emotions of human beings. People's opinions rise and fall like waves in the sea. One day they celebrate you, the next day they criticize you. One day they promise loyalty, the next day they disappear without explanation. If you build your identity on people, then every rejection becomes an earthquake. Every insult becomes a prison. Every betrayal becomes a verdict over your destiny. But when your identity is rooted in God, everything changes. The storm may still roar around you, but it no longer defines you. The accusations may continue, but they cannot rewrite what God has already declared. The loneliness may remain for a season, but it cannot convince you that you have been abandoned. There is a profound difference between being alone and being forgotten. You may have felt alone, but God has never forgotten a single step you have taken. I believe there are people listening right now who have almost become strangers to themselves. The pain has lasted so long that you barely remember who you were before disappointment entered your life. You used to laugh without pretending. You used to dream without fear. You used to wake up expecting something beautiful to happen. Then life happened. Trust was shattered. Promises were broken. Words were spoken that still echo in your mind long after the people who spoke them have moved on. Isn't it amazing how a sentence spoken in anger can attempt to imprison someone for years? Isn't it incredible how one betrayal can make a person question every future relationship? But tonight God is confronting every lie that has taken up residence in your heart. Those words that said you would never recover, they do not belong to your future. Those labels that others placed upon you, they do not belong to your identity. Those memories that keep telling you your best days are behind you, they are not speaking for God. The voice of despair is loud because it repeats itself. The voice of God is powerful because it speaks truth. And one sentence of truth from God carries more authority than 1,000 lies whispered by fear. Some of you have been waiting for God to change your circumstances, while God has been preparing to change your perspective first. That is not because your circumstances are unimportant. It is because the greatest victory is not always what happens around you. The greatest victory is what happens within you. Imagine walking into the same room that once intimidated you, but this time fear cannot control your heartbeat. Imagine hearing the same names that once caused anxiety, but now they no longer have power over your emotions. Imagine remembering the people who wounded you without allowing bitterness to poison your spirit. That is freedom. Freedom is not pretending the pain never happened. Freedom is refusing to let yesterday continue making decisions for tomorrow. Freedom is waking up and realizing that what broke your heart does not have permission to break your future. Freedom is standing in the middle of uncertainty with confidence, not because every question has been answered, but because you know the one who holds every answer. Tonight, God is inviting you to make a decision that nobody else can make for you. Not a decision based on emotion, because emotions change. Not a decision based on revenge, because revenge always demands more than it gives back. He is calling you to decide that the cycle ends with you. The bitterness stops with you. The fear stops with you. The constant expectation of failure stops with you. The belief that you will always be abandoned stops with you. You cannot control who betrayed you, but you can decide that betrayal will not become your identity. You cannot rewrite yesterday, but you can refuse to let yesterday write the rest of your story. This is why tonight matters so deeply. It is not merely another evening passing on the calendar. It is the moment you stop waiting for someone else to rescue your hope and begin placing your complete trust in God again. The chains did not become strong in one day, and they may not all fall away in a single moment, but the direction of your life can change in one decision. And perhaps that decision begins now with a quiet but unwavering declaration in your heart. I will no longer allow fear to speak louder than God. I will no longer allow my wounds to define my worth. I will no longer surrender my future to the failures of my past. When that decision becomes real, something invisible begins to shift. The prison door that looked impossible to open starts to crack. The weight you carried for years begins to feel lighter. The darkness that seemed endless starts to surrender to the first light of dawn. Because when a heart fully turns toward God, even before circumstances change, the future has already begun to change. There comes a moment in every battle when the greatest danger is no longer the enemy standing in front of you. The greatest danger becomes the voice that has quietly moved inside your own mind. It does not shout, it whispers. It whispers that nothing will ever change. It whispers that you have prayed too many times for God to answer now. It whispers that you have survived so many disappointments that expecting another miracle is simply setting yourself up for another heartbreak. That voice is subtle because it wears the disguise of logic. It points to your past and tells you your future has already been decided. It gathers every painful memory, every unanswered prayer, every broken promise, and presents them as evidence that hope is foolish. But tonight, I challenge that voice with everything within me. Since when did your past become greater than God's power? Since when did human failure become stronger than divine purpose? Since when did the opinions of people become the final authority over a life that belongs to God? The answer is simple. They never did. They only convinced you to believe they had. The prison was never built from iron bars. It was built from lies repeated so often that they began to sound like truth. But one encounter with God's truth can destroy years of deception. One moment in His presence can accomplish what years of fear could never prevent. That is why this night is different. You are not simply hearing encouraging words. You are confronting every false belief that has secretly been stealing your confidence. Think about how much energy you have spent trying to prove yourself to people who had already decided not to understand you. You explained your intentions. You defended your heart. You replayed conversations in your mind, wishing you had chosen different words, hoping somehow they would finally see the truth. Yet no matter how sincere you were, some people remained determined to misunderstand you. That reality hurts because every honest heart longs to be known. But listen carefully. Not everyone who misunderstands you is waiting for an explanation. Some have already chosen a version of you that fits the story they want to believe. If you spend your entire life chasing their approval, you will neglect the purpose God placed within you. There is a freedom that arrives when you stop placing your peace into the hands of people who never intended to protect it. You were not created to carry the impossible burden of controlling every opinion spoken about your life. God never asked you to win every argument. He asked you to remain faithful. He never promised that everyone would celebrate your integrity. He promised that nothing done with sincerity before Him would ever be wasted. Every quiet act of obedience, every unseen sacrifice, every moment you chose truth over revenge has been witnessed by God, even when no one else noticed. Perhaps what has exhausted you most is not the betrayal itself, but the loneliness that followed it. There is a unique pain in discovering that the people you expected to stand beside you chose silence instead. They watched from a distance while your reputation was questioned. They heard rumors and never asked if they were true. They disappeared exactly when you needed a steady voice, a reassuring hand, or a simple reminder that you were not facing the storm alone. Those moments leave scars because they force you to confront a heartbreaking question. Was I ever as important to them as they were to me? But do not allow another person's absence to redefine your worth. Someone's failure to remain faithful does not mean God has withdrawn His hand from your life. In fact, there are seasons when God allows human support to become scarce so that your confidence can be rooted in something unshakable. A tree grows strongest when its roots reach deeper than the changing weather above it. In the same way, your spirit becomes stronger when it learns to depend on God instead of the unpredictable loyalty of people. The storm that looked like it was destroying you has been driving your roots deeper into the one who never abandons those who seek Him. I believe there are dreams buried beneath your disappointment. Dreams you no longer speak about because you are afraid of being hurt again. Once you imagined a future filled with peace. You believed your family would heal. You believed your hard work would be recognized. You believed honesty would eventually be rewarded. Then reality seemed to mock those expectations. And little by little, your dreams became quieter. Not because they disappeared, but because disappointment taught you to hide them. Yet God has a remarkable way of breathing life into places that appear forgotten. The dream you buried is not invisible to Him. The purpose you stopped talking about has not slipped from His memory. Your tears have never erased His plan. Your failures have never rewritten His intention. Even the years you think were wasted are not beyond His ability to redeem. Imagine standing at the edge of a field after a devastating fire. Everything looks blackened and lifeless. You assume nothing good will ever grow there again. But beneath the surface, seeds remain untouched, waiting for the right season. In the same way, what God has planted within you has survived every betrayal, every disappointment, and every accusation. It may have been hidden beneath ashes, but it was never destroyed. Tonight is not about pretending the fire never happened. It is about believing that God can still bring life from what looked permanently ruined. So I want you to hear these words as though they are being spoken directly into the deepest place of your heart. Stop measuring tomorrow by yesterday's wounds. Stop allowing old pain to become a prophet over your future. The chapter you survived is not the chapter you are destined to remain in forever. God is not asking you to ignore reality. He is asking you to trust that reality is not finished yet. There are answers you cannot see, doors you cannot imagine, and moments of restoration that are already moving toward you, even while everything around you appears silent. The silence is not evidence that God has stopped working. Often it is the very place where His greatest work begins. And when the morning finally arrives, you will realize that the darkest night was never the end of your story. It was the final night you believed fear had the last word. From this moment forward, let your heart rise with a new determination, because the chains that once defined your life are breaking. Your courage is returning. Your faith is awakening. And the person who walks into tomorrow will no longer be ruled by the pain that entered yesterday. Tonight, because you chose to trust God instead of surrendering to despair, the ending of your suffering becomes the beginning of a future that fear can no longer control. There is another battle you have been fighting, and perhaps you have never spoken about it because you thought no one would understand. It is the battle between who you are today and who you know God is calling you to become. Every morning you wake up carrying the memory of what happened, but deep inside you there is also a quiet conviction refusing to die. That conviction keeps telling you that your story cannot end in defeat. It keeps whispering that there is still purpose beyond the pain, still light beyond the darkness, still strength beneath the exhaustion. Yet every time that conviction begins to rise, the voice of fear rushes in to silence it. It reminds you of every failure. It points toward every closed door. It replays every humiliation as though your worst moments deserve to become your permanent identity. But listen to me with all your heart. God never intended for your memories to become your master. Your past may explain why you are hurting, but it does not have the authority to determine where you are going. The wounds you carry may tell the story of what people did to you, but they cannot rewrite what God has already planned for your future. There comes a holy moment when a person stops asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and begins asking, "God, what are you preparing me for?" That single change transforms everything. Victims remain trapped in yesterday, but people who trust God begin walking toward tomorrow, even while yesterday still hurts. That is the decision standing before you tonight. Have you noticed how fear always demands evidence before it will allow you to believe? It says, "Show me the miracle first, then I will trust. Change the situation first, then I will have peace. Remove every obstacle first, then I will move forward." But faith does not speak that language. Faith looks into uncertainty without pretending it is easy. Faith acknowledges the storm without surrendering to it. Faith says, "I cannot see the entire road, but I know the one who sees beyond every horizon. That is why the strongest people are not always the loudest. They are often the ones who quietly continue walking after everyone expected them to quit. They continue praying after others would have stopped believing. They continue choosing integrity after being rewarded with betrayal. They continue showing compassion after experiencing cruelty. Why? Because their confidence is no longer built upon what people do. It is anchored in the unchanging character of God. Human promises can fail. Human affection can disappear. Human loyalty can fade without warning. But God does not wake up one morning and decide that His purpose for your life has expired. His faithfulness is not controlled by your emotions, your circumstances, or the opinions surrounding you. When everything else feels unstable, His promises remain the one place where your soul can stand without fear of collapse. I want to speak to the part of you that has become tired of pretending to be strong, not the version of you that smiles for everyone else, not the version that says, "I'm fine," while carrying invisible burdens that grow heavier every day. I am speaking to the person who has reached the point where even hope feels exhausting. You have carried responsibilities that nobody noticed. You have hidden tears because you did not want to become another burden for someone else. You have fought battles inside your own heart while still trying to encourage those around you. There were moments when you wondered whether anyone would ever ask how you were truly doing. There were nights when you lay awake, staring into the darkness, wishing someone could understand the weight pressing against your soul. But even in those silent hours, when words failed and strength disappeared, God was not absent. He was closer than your fears ever realized. While you believed you were barely surviving, He was quietly sustaining you. While you thought your faith was disappearing, He was protecting the small flame that refused to go out. You judged yourself because you were tired, but God never condemned you for growing weary. He understood every struggle before you ever experienced it. He knew every tear before it reached your eyes. He saw the strength you kept giving away when you believed you had nothing left. That is why you are still here. Not because you are stronger than everyone else, but because God refused to let your story end where your strength ended. There are seasons when God allows everything false to shake so that everything true can finally stand. That shaking feels frightening while you are living through it. Relationships change. Plans collapse. Expectations fall apart. People reveal sides of themselves you never imagined. Doors close without explanation. The life you carefully built seems to unravel one thread at a time. At first, you assume everything valuable is being taken away. But what if the shaking is actually exposing what was never secure to begin with? A building cannot become stronger until its weak foundations are discovered. Gold cannot reveal its purity until it passes through intense fire. A seed cannot become a mighty tree while refusing to break open beneath the soil. In the same way, there are parts of your life that could only grow after the old version of you began to disappear. The person who needed constant approval had to fall away so that confidence rooted in God could emerge. The person who depended entirely on human validation had to be transformed into someone who could stand firm even when misunderstood. The person who believed every setback was the end had to become someone who sees every setback as another opportunity for God to reveal His wisdom. This process is not comfortable, but comfort has never been the greatest evidence of God's work. Transformation is. Tonight, I believe God is placing a question before your heart. and your answer will shape everything that follows. Will you continue carrying the labels that other people placed upon you? Or will you finally embrace the identity God has been speaking over your life all along? Will you keep replaying the voices that wounded you? Or will you begin listening to the voice that restores you? Will you continue standing at the doorway of yesterday, hoping people who left will suddenly return and become different? Or will you step into the future that God has been patiently preparing? You cannot hold on to yesterday with one hand while expecting to fully receive tomorrow with the other. At some point, healing requires release, not because what happened was acceptable, not because the pain was insignificant, but because your future is too valuable to remain chained to people who have already walked away. Let them keep their opinions if they choose. Let them misunderstand if they must. Let them underestimate what God is building within you. Their inability to recognize your calling cannot cancel it. Their rejection cannot erase it. Their silence cannot bury it. God has already spoken. And when God declares purpose over a life, no human voice possesses the authority to overturn his decision. So rise tonight with a heart that refuses to surrender another day to fear. Lift your eyes beyond the disappointment that has tried to define you. Every tear has been counted. Every silent prayer has been heard. Every lonely step has been witnessed by the God who never abandons those who place their trust in him. You are not standing at the edge of your ending. You are standing at the threshold of a new beginning that fear cannot stop and betrayal cannot destroy. The night that was meant to convince you to quit will become the night you remember for the rest of your life. Because this is the moment your spirit chooses courage over despair, truth over deception, hope over hopelessness, and unwavering trust in God over every lie that tried to steal your future. From this night forward, the darkness will no longer introduce itself as your destiny. It will only remind you of the place where God proved that his light was always greater. There is a reason the battle became so intense just before this moment. Darkness does not fight over what has no value. Storms do not gather around an empty field. Resistance always reveals that something precious is worth resisting. Think about every attempt that has been made to break your confidence. Think about every disappointment that arrived just when you were beginning to hope again. Think about the people who suddenly changed toward you without explanation, the opportunities that slipped away at the last second, the endless cycle of wondering whether your best days had already passed. None of those moments were random. They became opportunities for fear to convince you that your future had already been stolen. But fear has one fatal weakness. It cannot survive where absolute trust in God begins to rise. The moment you stop negotiating with doubt, the moment you stop entertaining every lie that says you are finished, something powerful happens within you. You begin to realize that the greatest miracle is not merely that your circumstances will change. The greatest miracle is that the circumstances no longer possess the power to define your spirit. You become the kind of person who can stand in the middle of uncertainty with unwavering confidence, because your foundation is no longer built upon what is visible. It is built upon the faithfulness of God. And what God establishes cannot be destroyed by the opinions, betrayals, or failures of people. Some of you have been asking God to remove every difficult person from your life. But perhaps there's another question worth asking. What if certain people revealed themselves so that you would finally stop placing your confidence where it never belonged. Sometimes betrayal uncovers an attachment that quietly replaced complete dependence on God. Sometimes disappointment exposes expectations that were resting upon human beings instead of the one who never fails. This does not mean the betrayal was good. It was painful. It was unfair. It should never have happened. But God has the power to bring wisdom out of what others intended for harm. He can transform a painful lesson into lasting discernment. He can take the very experience that almost destroyed your confidence and use it to sharpen your judgment, strengthen your character, and deepen your trust. One day you will look back and realize that what you once called the darkest chapter became the place where you learned to recognize truth more clearly than ever before. You will notice warning signs you once ignored. You will protect your peace with greater wisdom. You will stop chasing acceptance from people who cannot appreciate your sincerity. Most importantly, you will discover that your security was never supposed to rest in temporary relationships. It was always meant to rest in the unchanging presence of God. Do not underestimate what God can accomplish through one surrendered heart. History has never been changed merely by people with perfect circumstances. It has been changed by people who refused to surrender after everything appeared to be against them. The person listening to these words tonight may feel ordinary, overlooked, and exhausted. But God has never measured a life by public recognition. He sees what others ignore. He sees the hidden integrity no one applauds. He sees the private battles you fought without announcing them to the world. He sees every time you chose honesty when deception would have been easier. He sees every act of compassion that nobody thanked you for. He sees every sacrifice that seemed invisible to everyone else. Never believe that unnoticed faithfulness is forgotten faithfulness. Heaven does not overlook what the world ignores. There are moments when people applaud what impresses them, while God quietly honors what transforms the heart. That means your greatest victories may never become headlines, yet they will echo through your future in ways you cannot yet imagine. Every faithful decision becomes another stone beneath the foundation of the life God is building. I want you to imagine yourself waking up tomorrow without carrying the invisible weight that has followed you for years. Imagine breathing without the constant pressure of proving your worth. Imagine looking in the mirror without hearing the accusations that once echoed through your mind. Imagine remembering your past without allowing it to dictate your future. This is not wishful thinking. This is what begins to happen when a person fully entrusts their heart to God. Healing rarely arrives as a loud announcement. Often it begins quietly. A thought that once controlled you suddenly loses its strength. A memory that once brought overwhelming pain no longer steals your peace. A fear that once paralyzed you becomes another reminder of how far God has already brought you. Little by little, the chains loosen. Little by little, your confidence returns. Little by little, your spirit begins to recognize a version of yourself that had been buried beneath years of disappointment. One day you realize that the person who once begged for survival is now walking with purpose. The tears that once flowed from hopelessness now become tears of gratitude, because you finally understand that God never abandoned you, even during the seasons when His work remained invisible. So tonight, make this decision with every part of your being. Refuse to let bitterness become the inheritance you pass into tomorrow. Refuse to allow resentment to occupy the place where peace belongs. Refuse to let fear write another chapter of your life. Stand before God with an open heart and declare that this is where the cycle ends. This is where shame loses its voice. This is where regret releases its grip. This is where every lie that told you that you were too broken, too forgotten, too late, or too weak is stripped of its authority. You are not defined by those who walked away. You are not defined by the people who doubted you. You are not defined by the accusations that tried to stain your name. You are defined by the God who created you with purpose before anyone ever had the opportunity to misunderstand you. And because He has not changed His mind about your future, you have no reason to abandon hope. Lift your head, strengthen your heart. Fix your eyes on God with renewed determination, because the night that tried to bury your calling is becoming the night your calling rises with greater clarity than ever before. What once looked like the end is being transformed into the beginning of a life marked not by fear but by courage, not by defeat but by unwavering faith, and not by the failures of yesterday but by the unshakable purpose God has prepared for you from the very beginning. The moment you finish hearing these words, life around you may look exactly the same. The same people may still misunderstand you. The same challenges may still stand before you. The same unanswered questions may still exist. But do not mistake unchanged circumstances for an unchanged future. The greatest victories of God often begin in places where human eyes see no evidence at all. Before a tree breaks through the ground, its roots are already growing in secret. Before dawn fills the sky with light, the darkest hour has already reached its limit. In the same way, before your breakthrough becomes visible, God is already working in ways you cannot measure, arranging moments you cannot predict, strengthening parts of your spirit that no one else can see. Never believe that silence means absence. Never believe that delay means denial. God has never stopped moving on behalf of those who continue to trust Him. So from this moment forward, refuse to speak the language of defeat. Refuse to rehearse the lies that once kept you awake at night. Refuse to give yesterday another opportunity to steal tomorrow. Walk with your head held high, not because every problem has disappeared, but because your confidence no longer depends on your circumstances. Your confidence rests in God. Let those who doubted you continue to doubt if they choose. Let those who walked away continue walking. Let those who misunderstood your heart hold on to their opinions if they must. Their choices no longer determine your direction. God is leading you into a future that does not require everyone's approval. It only requires your unwavering trust in Him. The very pain that once threatened to destroy you will become undeniable evidence of the strength God built within you. One day, people will look at your life and wonder how you survived what should have broken you. They will search for an explanation, but only you will know the truth. It was not your own strength. It was God carrying you through every unseen battle, every lonely night, every silent tear, and every moment when you felt you had nothing left. And when that day comes, you will not celebrate because every storm disappeared. You will celebrate because the storm never defeated the person God was shaping you to become. You will remember the nights when fear whispered that you were finished, and you will smile because fear was wrong. You will remember the voices that declared you would never recover, and you will stand as living proof that they never had the authority to define your destiny. You will remember every betrayal, every rejection, every false accusation, every lonely season, not with bitterness, but with gratitude. Because each one became another place where God's faithfulness revealed itself. What once looked like an ending became the doorway to a beginning greater than you could have imagined. So do not leave this moment carrying the same chains you arrived with. Lay them down before God. Lay down the guilt that was never yours to carry. Lay down the shame that has followed you for too long. Lay down the fear that has kept your dreams imprisoned. Lay down the anger that has silently drained your strength. Lay down every voice that has spoken against the purpose God placed inside you. You cannot step fully into the future while holding tightly to the weight of the past. Tonight, choose freedom. Tonight, choose trust. Tonight, choose courage. Tonight, choose to believe that God's promise is greater than your pain, that His purpose is stronger than your past, and that His power is greater than every obstacle standing before you. Hear these final words and let them settle deep within your soul. You were never created to spend your life imprisoned by the opinions of people. You were never created to bow before fear, to surrender, to despair, or to live beneath the shadow of yesterday's wounds. You were created to walk with confidence in the God who formed you with purpose, who has never lost sight of you, who has counted every tear, heard every prayer, and remained faithful through every season of your life. The darkness may have surrounded you, but it could not extinguish what God placed within you. The betrayal may have wounded you, but it could not cancel your calling. The loneliness may have tested you, but it could not separate you from God's presence. The lies may have echoed for years, but they could never become stronger than His truth. So rise. Rise with a heart that no longer seeks permission from the people who fail to see your worth. Rise with a spirit that refuses to surrender another day to fear. Rise with unwavering confidence that the God who brought you this far will not abandon you now. Walk into tomorrow expecting His wisdom, trusting His timing, and resting in His faithfulness. Let your faith become louder than your doubts. Let your hope become stronger than your memories. Let your courage become greater than your fear. Because this is not the night your story ends in defeat. This is the night doubt loses its voice. This is the night fear releases its grip. This is the night your spirit stands taller than your circumstances. This is the night you stop surviving and start believing again. This is the night you stop looking backward and start walking forward. This is the night everything that tried to keep you bound comes to an end. Not because of your own strength, but because you chose to place your complete trust in God. And from this night onward, your future will no longer be written by pain. It will be written by the unshakable faithfulness, limitless power, and everlasting purpose of God. Tonight, it all ends and a new life begins. There are moments in life when your silence speaks louder than your words. Moments when the noise of the world fades and the only sound left is the beating of your heart in rhythm with God's will. My friend, hear me clearly. God sometimes brings you to a place where He demands your silence, not as a punishment, but as a preparation. Because before a miracle unfolds, before divine power manifests, there must be a stillness that allows His hand to move freely. You cannot talk your way into a miracle. You must trust your way into it. When God is about to do something great in your life, He often leads you into a season where you can say nothing. explain nothing, defend nothing. You will feel misunderstood, misjudged, and unseen. But in that silence, God is working in ways you cannot comprehend. The silence is not the absence of activity. It is the sacred ground where heaven begins to rearrange the details of your destiny. The silence is where God breathes life into what once seemed dead. You see, when you talk too soon, you interfere with divine timing. When you speak prematurely, you reveal what heaven is still forming. God wants you silent, not because He wants you powerless, but because He wants His power to speak for you. Many people fail to receive their miracle because they cannot stay silent long enough for God to finish His work. They pray for breakthrough, but their mouths contradict their prayers. They believe in promise, yet they complain in process. You cannot ask God to open a door and then speak doubt into the hallway. Your words are seeds, and when you speak in impatience, you uproot what God is trying to grow in silence. There is a reason why God told the people of Israel to walk around the walls of Jericho in silence. For 6 days they said nothing. They didn't complain about the size of the wall. They didn't question the strategy. They didn't talk about their fear. They walked, they waited, and they trusted. And when the time came, when God said, now, the walls fell. Not because of their shouting alone, but because of their obedience in silence before the shout. The silence built the faith. The silence strengthened the spirit. The silence proved they trusted the unseen hand of God. When you are silent, you give space for heaven to speak. God's whisper cannot be heard over the noise of your fear. He cannot plant wisdom in a mind that's crowded with worry. Silence is not weakness. It is spiritual discipline. It is the posture of those who trust that God is not late, not absent, not unaware. He is moving. He is preparing. He is aligning the impossible become possible. God never works in noise. The seed grows in silence. The sun rises without announcement. The stars shine without applause. Miracles are born in moments of stillness. Do not mistake God's silence for His absence. When heaven is quiet, it is often because God is designing something too powerful for your immediate understanding. You may not see it yet, but He is setting the stage for your transformation. You may not hear it yet, but He is orchestrating the sound of your victory. Every silent season is an unseen construction site of destiny. God is building behind the scenes. When you stay silent, you cooperate with His timing. You surrender your control. You say, God, I trust your plan more than my emotions. That is where faith becomes mature. Not in shouting, but in silence. Silence is not passive, it is powerful. It is where you wrestle with your own impatience and choose to rest in divine order. It is where your heart says, even if I don't understand, I will still trust. God tests you through silence to see if your faith depends on feelings or on His promises. He watches to see if you can still believe when you hear nothing. Because faith that survives silence is faith that commands miracles. Sometimes God hides you in silence because He is protecting what He is producing. There are people who cannot handle the size of what He is about to give you. If you speak too soon, you expose your promise to unnecessary attack. The enemy cannot destroy what he does not know. That's why God shields your miracle in silence. He covers it until it's strong enough to stand. You may think God forgot you, but He is really preserving you. He is letting your roots grow deep before your branches rise high. He is allowing you to be unseen so that when you are revealed, no man can take credit for what only God could do. There is a divine power in saying nothing when everything inside you wants to explain. You don't have to defend yourself when you know God is your defender. You don't have to prove your worth when God already chose you. The moment you decide to stay silent in the face of misunderstanding, you elevate from human reasoning to divine trust. Let them talk. Let them assume. Let them judge. While they speak, you stay still. Because silence invites God to speak louder through results than you ever could through words. The greatest miracles are not shouted into existence. They are silently conceived in faith. When Sarah laughed in disbelief, God said nothing immediately. But when the time came, when the silence had done its work, the child of promise was born. When Joseph was thrown into the pit, heaven said nothing. When he was sold, imprisoned, forgotten, silence. Yet in that silence, God was shaping him for greatness. When the time was right, He raised him to power, and every silent tear turned into a divine appointment. You must understand, silence is God's classroom for destiny. When you complain, you close the door to revelation. But when you are silent, you open the window for God's wisdom. Sometimes you do not need to say, why? You just need to whisper, yes. Because God is not obligated to explain Himself to you. His silence is not rejection, it is strategy. If He told you everything, you would not need faith. So He hides His methods to strengthen your trust. The miracle will not come through noise, it will come through obedience. You don't need to announce your faith to everyone. You need to anchor it deep within your soul. You need to wake up and say, God, even if I hear nothing today, I will still believe. That is the kind of faith that moves mountains. Because silence before the miracle is not emptiness. It is expectation. It is the pause before the divine symphony begins. It is the calm before heaven releases what you've been praying for. You may feel like your prayers are echoing back unanswered, but I tell you, God is listening more in your silence than in your shouting. He hears the tears you never cried aloud. He reads the pain you never spoke. He understands the battles you never explained. And He rewards those who can trust Him without needing to talk. Sometimes you must carry the promise quietly, like a mother carrying life in her womb. Nobody can see it yet, but you know something divine is forming inside. Every delay, every silence, every hidden season is evidence that the miracle is growing. The world values expression, but heaven values restraint. The world says, speak your truth. God says, be still and you will see mine. The world teaches noise. God trains you in stillness, because true strength is not shown in reaction. It is shown in restraint. The strongest person is not the one who always speaks, but the one who knows when to stay silent and let God act. Do not let your emotions speak louder than your faith. When you face a storm, silence the fear and let your faith whisper, God is in control. When people betray you, silence your anger and let your soul say, God is my vindication. When life becomes uncertain, silence your doubt and let your heart declare, God knows what He is doing. Every moment you choose silence over reaction, you build spiritual authority. You show heaven that you trust divine timing more than human opinion. If you study how God works, you will see that silence always comes before power. Before creation began, the universe was silent and formless. Then God spoke and life burst forth. Before great revelation, there is always great stillness. Before a new door opens, there is often a long pause. That pause is not wasted time, it is preparation time. God is aligning resources, moving people, opening pathways, adjusting hearts. You may not see it, but you will soon stand in the evidence of what your silence allowed Him to do. Don't speak against what God is still forming. Don't curse what heaven is still crafting. Keep your mouth shut and your faith loud in your heart. Because the enemy listens to your words, but he cannot read your faith. Protect your promise in silence. Guard your destiny in quiet obedience. Let God finish His work before you make your announcement. There will be a time to shout, but now is the time to stay still. There will be a time to testify, but now is the time to trust. You must master the art of divine silence. Learn to walk through seasons without needing everyone's understanding. Learn to wait without needing evidence. Learn to believe without needing confirmation. God's miracles are not birthed in noise, they are birthed in faith. The less you talk, the more you hear. The less you explain, the more you discern. The less you react, the more you receive. Because in silence, you make room for God to move freely, unhindered by your emotions or impatience. God does not rush. He is never early, never late, always on divine time. The silence you hate is often the bridge between your prayer and your promise. God uses silence to separate the impatient from the faithful. Those who complain during silence are not ready for the miracle. Those who stay still and trust are the ones who will see it manifest. You cannot demand clarity from a God who is teaching you faith. Let the silence do its work. Let it humble your heart. Let it teach you patience. Let it train your spirit to rest. Some of the most powerful moments of your life will come when you say nothing and simply allow God to prove Himself. You don't need to announce what He told you. You don't need to prove what He promised. You just need to stay silent until the miracle speaks for itself. Because when God moves, it will speak louder than your words ever could. When the miracle happens, everyone will see. They will ask, how did it happen? And you will know. It happened in the silence. It happened when you stopped arguing. It happened when you stopped worrying. It happened when you stopped explaining. It happened when you surrendered. God's power flows into surrendered silence. There are times when silence becomes the strongest voice of faith. When you cannot see what God is doing. When every door appears locked and every prayer seems unanswered. The natural impulse is to speak, to ask, to reason, to question. But the Spirit within whispers, be still. Because silence is not just the absence of words. It is the declaration that you have surrendered to God's authority. It is your spirit saying, I do not need to see, I do not need to understand, I only need to trust. Silence is faith in its purest form. It is the posture of the soul that says, even if I hear nothing, I believe everything. You see, there is a power that only flows in the quiet. God does not perform His greatest works in noise or chaos. He works in stillness, in the unseen, in the secret places of faith. The most miraculous transformations often happen in silence because silence removes human interference. When you stop explaining, God starts performing. When you stop defending, God begins proving. When you stop striving, God begins fulfilling. The silence is not a pause, it is a process. It is the womb of divine manifestation. Think of the seed buried deep in the earth. It does not announce its growth. It does not cry out for attention. It remains buried, unseen, uncelebrated. But in that darkness, God is working. He is breaking it, reshaping it, giving it new life. The roots are spreading even when the world sees nothing. That's how miracles grow, in hidden silence. And one day, when the season is right, that seed breaks through the soil. That moment of revelation was born from months of quiet transformation. So too are your miracles. God often hides your blessing in silence until it's strong enough to survive the light of exposure. Many people lose their miracle because they cannot handle God's timing. They speak too soon. They reveal too early. They act before the instruction is complete. But divine timing demands divine patience. The silence of God is not delay. It is design. He is orchestrating things in perfect alignment. He is removing the wrong people as positioning the right ones and crafting the perfect moment for His glory to be revealed. And while you wait, He is watching your heart. Will you complain or will you trust? Will you talk out of fear or will you stay silent in faith? When you are silent, you become sensitive to divine direction. You begin to hear what cannot be heard in noise. You begin to perceive what eyes cannot see. God's whispers are not meant for a distracted mind. They are reserved for a quiet heart. That is why those who master silence master divine communication. Because in the quiet, your spirit begins to understand things your intellect cannot. In the quiet, you begin to feel the movement of God shaping your destiny. The miracle begins not when you see the result, but when your heart aligns with His will in silence. Sometimes God silences you to humble you. He wants you to realize that not every battle requires your voice. Some victories come only through surrender. There are situations where you must stop explaining yourself to people and let God reveal the truth through outcome, not argument. Let them misunderstand you. Let them speak against you. You don't need to shout back when God Himself will vindicate you. The greatest revenge is not words. It is results produced by divine favor. Your silence becomes a weapon of faith when you know that God's justice is stronger than human judgment. When life becomes unbearable and you are tempted to speak from frustration, pause and remember. Your silence is an act of worship. It tells God that you trust Him even in confusion. It says, I will not let my emotions dictate my faith. When you speak out of pain, you release words that weaken your faith. But when you stay silent and look upward, you release power into the unseen. Silence becomes the bridge between your suffering and your strength. It is not weakness to stay quiet. It is wisdom. Because God fights for those who can wait without murmuring. Silence before a miracle is like the still air before a mighty storm. The atmosphere may look calm, but beneath it, pressure is building. The heavens are preparing to release something powerful. That's why God often commands stillness before manifestation. You may not feel movement, but heaven is stirring. You may not see progress, but divine pressure is forming the breakthrough. The silence you're in right now may be the sound of preparation, not absence. The moment God says, now, everything will shift at once. That is why you must remain silent until the miracle happens. Because one wrong word spoken in doubt can delay what has already been set in motion. Do you remember how God instructed His servant to build in silence? Many divine works are built without applause. God develops His greatest vessels in secrecy. He allows isolation not to punish you, but to prepare you. Silence is the school of trust, where the soul learns dependence. You cannot graduate into power until you have mastered the discipline of stillness. Because those who cannot be silent before God cannot handle the weight of His glory after the miracle. Silence refines you. It burns away pride, noise, and human reasoning. It molds you into a vessel fit for divine purpose. When God is silent, it is not that He is ignoring you. It is that He is teaching you. He is testing your endurance. He is observing whether your faith is rooted in results or in relationship. Anybody can believe when God is speaking, but only the mature can believe when God is silent. Only those anchored in trust can say, even when I cannot trace His hand, I know His heart. That level of faith attracts miracles because it shows that you trust God more than you trust your own understanding. If God allowed noise to accompany every miracle, the world would worship the process instead of the provider. That is why He moves quietly. That is why He hides His power in silence, so that when it unfolds, no man can claim credit. God alone will be glorified. Your silent endurance will speak volumes when the miracle comes to light. People will look at your life and wonder how you overcame without words, without help, without noise. And you will know because you trusted the silence. God's silence also exposes the noise within you. Sometimes the loudest voices are not outside, but inside, the fears, the doubts, the impatience. In silence, those voices rise to the surface so that God can silence them one by one. You cannot conquer what you do not confront, and you cannot confront what you cannot hear. So God brings you into silence to reveal your inner noise. He shows you the parts of yourself that must be surrendered before the miracle can arrive. Silence is purification. It detoxes the soul from fear and fills it with faith. When you choose silence, you choose alignment. You stop trying to force your way and allow God to make a way. You stop explaining your pain and begin listening for purpose. You stop speaking about the problem and start sensing the promise. The miracle does not need your words. It needs your trust. There are times when the miracle is so delicate that only silence can protect it. When a mother carries new life, she moves carefully. She doesn't announce too soon. She guards the life inside because it's sacred. That is how you must protect what God is growing in you. Some blessings are not meant to be discussed until they are delivered. If you talk too soon, you invite opinions that weaken your faith. Stay silent until the miracle has matured. God wants to birth something in you that cannot survive public opinion. It must be shielded by sacred silence. The silence is also where God anoints your spirit. The noise of the world drains you, but the stillness of God fills you. In the quiet, you feel His strength returning. In the quiet, peace becomes your companion. In the quiet, your heart begins to hear new instructions, new visions, new directions. Many people pray, but few listen. Yet prayer without listening is incomplete. The miracle requires both faith in asking and faith in waiting. God does not bless the noise of panic. He blesses the calm of trust. If you could see what God is preparing, you would understand why He commands your silence. The miracle ahead of you is too holy to be handled casually. It must be protected by reverence. When God told His servants in ancient times to be silent, it was not to suppress them, it was to sanctify them. Silence is sacred. It is how you separate yourself from the distractions of the world and align your frequency with heaven. You begin to hear divine instructions, not meant for the crowd, but for your calling. And when the miracle finally happens, it will be worth every silent night, every quiet tear, every unanswered question. Because when God reveals His plan, it will silence every doubt. When the blessing arrives, it will speak for itself. You won't need to explain how it happened. Those who see it will know it was the hand of God. And in that moment, you will realize that your silence was never empty. It was filled with divine activity. There comes a point in every believer's journey where words no longer have meaning, where explanations fall short and reasoning cannot satisfy the soul. It is there, in the quiet of the Spirit, that God draws near. It is there that He whispers, "Be silent, for I am working." You see, the human heart often seeks understanding before obedience. But divine wisdom says, trust before you understand. The silence God calls you into is not confusion, it is consecration. It is where your dependence shifts from your own logic to His limitless power. You will never witness the fullness of what God can do until you have learned to wait in the stillness of surrender. When God leads you into silence, it means He is about to perform something that human effort cannot accomplish. Your words might delay it, your impatience might distort it, but your silence will protect it. Because silence is not just the absence of noise, it is the atmosphere of faith. In that silence, you stop commanding and start receiving. You stop analyzing and start trusting. You stop moving ahead of God and begin walking in step with Him. Every miracle has a moment of stillness before manifestation. Before the dawn breaks, there is deep night. Before the river flows, there is still water. Before the promise blooms, there is quiet soil. Sometimes God keeps you silent so that you may learn to listen. You cannot hear divine instruction when your mind is occupied with human reaction. Many people pray for miracles, but cannot stop talking long enough to hear what God is saying. They speak out of fear, out of anxiety, out of desperation, and yet the voice of God requires calmness. The spirit that listens more than it speaks becomes a vessel of divine revelation. Silence before God is not emptiness, it is the posture of readiness. It says, Speak, Lord, and I will obey. When you can remain silent in the face of confusion, you demonstrate spiritual maturity. It means you no longer need to see to believe. You believe because you know who God is. You know His history with you. You remember how He carried you through battles you never expected to survive. You remember how He turned shame into strength, pain into peace, and despair into direction. That same God is not silent because He forgot you. He is silent because He is building you. He is not ignoring you. He is instructing you through stillness. He is not delaying you. He is developing you. The silence of God is not a void. It is a voice that speaks through events, timing, and conviction. It is in silence that faith becomes purified from emotion. When the noise fades, what remains is the raw truth of your trust. Silence strips you of spiritual pretenses. It exposes whether you truly believe that God is enough. Anyone can say, I trust God, when everything is visible. But when the doors close, when the heavens seem still, and when prayers seem unanswered, can you still say, I know God is working? That is where real faith lies. There is a divine beauty in being hidden by God. People may forget you, overlook you, or misunderstand your silence. But God hides those He intends to honor. When God is shaping a masterpiece, He covers it until it is ready. You are not being ignored. You are being refined. You are not being silenced. You are being shielded. He is protecting what He is producing. Because when the miracle comes, it will be undeniable. When God reveals you, no one will be able to deny that His hand was upon you. The silence before the miracle ensures that only God receives the glory after it manifests. Learn to stop defending what God will one day prove. You don't have to explain your faith to those who doubt. You don't have to justify your waiting to those who rush. You don't have to answer every accusation or clarify every misunderstanding. When you are silent, you are saying, my defense is in God's hands. And when He rises on your behalf, the same people who doubted you will witness His power through your life. Your silence becomes your sermon. Your restraint becomes your victory. Every delay is an invitation to deeper faith. Every unanswered prayer is an altar where patience is tested and trust is strengthened. God delays not to deny but to deepen. He delays not to frustrate but to fortify. When you wait silently, you build spiritual muscle. You train your heart to rest when the world screams, hurry. You prove to heaven that you trust divine timing more than your own schedule. And that kind of trust always precedes divine reward. The silence before your miracle is not wasted time. It is preparation time. God never wastes silence. He uses it to reorder your priorities, purify your motives, and strengthen your endurance. You see, miracles are not cheap. They require spiritual capacity. God will not release what you cannot carry. So in the silence, He enlarges your heart, sharpens your discernment, and tests your patience. Every minute of waiting adds weight to your character. Every unspoken word adds depth to your faith. And when the miracle finally arrives, you will realize why it took time, because you needed to grow into it. There is wisdom in being quiet while God works. The one who speaks too soon can ruin what heaven is still arranging. The wise soul knows that timing is everything. Even the most powerful truth must wait for its appointed moment. When you stay silent, you are saying to God, I trust your clock more than my calendar. You are saying, I don't need to rush what you are perfecting. And that level of faith releases supernatural favor, because heaven always honors trust that doesn't demand explanation. The silence before the miracle also teaches you separation. It reveals who belongs in your next season and who does not. When you go quiet, people begin to show their true colors. Those who cannot handle your silence are those who were never assigned to your purpose. God sometimes silences you to expose those who only walk with you when they can hear you. In silence, fake support fades and real faith remains. You begin to see who truly believes in you. Not because of what you say, but because of who you are. When you walk through the silent season, do not compare your pace with others. God's work in your life has its own rhythm. Others may be shouting about their progress, but your miracle may require secrecy. Some miracles are birthed in hidden places. What God is preparing for you may be greater than what others are celebrating now. Don't envy their noise. Stay faithful in your silence. Because when your moment comes, it will not need advertisement. It will carry its own announcement. There will come a moment when the silence breaks. And when it does, the sound will shake everything around you. The breakthrough will come suddenly. The doors will open effortlessly. The things that seemed immovable will fall in an instant. But until then, hold your peace. Keep your composure. Let God finish what He started. Because once the miracle is released, every quiet tear will make sense. Every night of stillness will be justified. Every unanswered prayer will be revealed as divine preparation. Silence also teaches humility. It reminds you that you are not the source. You are the vessel. You are not the author. You are the recipient. The one who knows how to be quiet before God is the one who understands their dependence on Him. The proud cannot stay silent, for pride always demands to be heard. But humility finds comfort in silence, knowing that God's voice is worth more than human approval. The silent believer says, I do not need the world to see me. I only need God to see me. And when God sees you in secret, He rewards you in public. In the silence, learn to speak only to God in your heart. Whisper to Him your fears, your hopes, your surrender. Because when you speak to men, you may receive sympathy. But when you speak to God, you receive strength. God's silence to your words does not mean rejection. It means He is responding through circumstances. Look around. He may be answering you in ways words cannot capture. There will be times when your silence will confuse others, but remember, it is not their understanding that matters. It is your alignment with God's will. Let the world think what it wants. Your silence is between you and heaven. It is your secret language of faith. It is the space where divine mysteries unfold. And soon, when your miracle speaks, it will silence every doubt that ever surrounded you. So remain steadfast in your quiet trust. Keep your heart anchored in faith. For the silence you endure now is the foundation of the testimony you will one day share. When you finally stand on the other side of this season, you will not regret the silence. You will thank God for it, because In that silence, He strengthened you, taught you, refined you, and prepared you for blessings too great for words. Listen to me carefully. This message is not for everyone. It is for the one who has been crying in secret, wondering when the drought will end. It is for the person who has been faithful, yet nothing seems to move. It is for the one who has given, served, waited, and still finds themselves standing in the valley of lack. I came to declare something today. God is about to shock your bank account. Yes, I said it. Not just bless it, not just increase it. God is about to shock it. What's coming will make you tremble with awe, because it will be far beyond anything you could have imagined, calculated, or planned for. There comes a time in every believer's journey when heaven decides, enough waiting. A time when God looks at your persistence, your prayers, your faith that refused to die, and says, no, you have entered that moment. You may not feel it yet, but the atmosphere around your life is shifting. God has been silently preparing a sudden overflow. The same account you've watched remain empty will soon be filled with divine surprises. The same hands that have written checks in faith will soon receive deposits that make no logical sense. God is moving, not in small ways, but in supernatural ones. When God shocks your bank account, He doesn't just add numbers. He adds meaning. He adds purpose. He adds favor that cannot be earned. Because true prosperity is not random, it's strategic. God blesses the person whose heart He can trust. That is why He allowed the delay. He was building your character to match your blessing. He was teaching you to depend on Him so that when the miracle came, you would never mistake it as your own doing. The famine trained you for the feast. The lack taught you the language of gratitude. The struggle positioned you to appreciate what's coming. Do not misunderstand this moment. You are not being punished by your problems. You are being prepared by them. God never wastes a test. Every empty wallet, every declined transaction, every painful no, was a setup for what He is about to release. Some of you think God forgot your seed, but He didn't. The seed you planted in tears is about to produce a harvest in laughter. You've been asking, when God? How long? And God is saying, now. You have stepped into divine timing. Heaven's bank is about to transfer something into your life that the world cannot explain. When God decides to shock your bank account, He doesn't use human systems. He uses favor. He uses people you least expect. He opens doors that weren't even on your map. He whispers your name in rooms where you've never been. He causes opportunities to locate you by divine GPS. You don't chase blessings anymore. Blessings begin to chase you. What used to be difficult suddenly becomes easy. The things you prayed for begin to find their way to your address. Because when God shocks your bank account, it is not a normal transaction. It's a divine announcement that your wilderness season is over. Do you know why your struggle was so intense? Because the blessing that's coming is greater than the pain you endured. God never allows you to go through financial emptiness without a reason. He uses the dry season to break pride, to reveal motives, and to train your spirit to rely on Him completely. That's why when the breakthrough comes, you will know it was God and God alone. Not a man, not luck, not chance, but divine orchestration. You will stand there looking at your account, your business, your opportunities, and whisper, only God could have done this. The moment you shift your mindset from scarcity to faith, everything begins to move. God responds to faith, not fear. If you keep saying, I'll never make it, your words create the walls that trap your future. But when you start saying, God is about to shock my bank account, you are speaking in alignment with heaven's will. The power of your confession is the key that unlocks your provision. What you say determines what you see. Speak abundance even when you feel broke. Speak overflow even when your pockets are empty. Because faith is not about seeing first, it's about declaring until you see. Some of you are one act of obedience away from your financial breakthrough. God may be telling you to release something small so He can trust you with something big. Don't resist the test. When you hold on too tightly to what you have, you block what God is trying to send. The hand that gives is the hand that receives. God cannot fill a closed fist. That's why your generosity matters. Not because God needs your money, but because He's training your spirit to let go. Every time you release something by faith, you're saying, God, I trust you more than my balance. That's when the floodgates begin to open. You have to understand, money is spiritual. It's not just numbers. It carries energy, intention, and obedience. When your money is aligned with God, it multiplies. When it's not, it drains. Some people keep losing wealth because their heart is disconnected from divine purpose. But when you make God the center of your resources, He becomes the multiplier. You will give and still increase. You will sow and still overflow. Because your source is not the job, not the client, not the salary. It is God Himself. And when your source is unlimited, your supply will never run dry. Look at your life. You've survived seasons where you should have gone under. Bills that didn't make sense somehow got paid. Debts that seemed impossible suddenly disappeared. That wasn't luck. That was God. You are a living testimony of divine provision. And if God sustained you in lack, how much more will He bless you in abundance? The same God who kept you afloat will now cause you to overflow. You didn't come this far to stay where you are. You are standing on the edge of a financial explosion orchestrated by the hand of God. Get ready for unexpected credits, for sudden approvals, for doors you didn't apply for. Get ready for contracts that find you, for opportunities that chase your name. Get ready for checks that surprise you, for ideas that produce rivers of income. God is not limited by your education, your background, or your environment. When He decides to bless you, nothing can stop Him. He can use the most unlikely channels to bring you increase. He can use a phone call, a random message, a forgotten investment, a divine connection, because God's ways are not our ways. This is not about greed. This is about purpose. God doesn't bless you just to make you comfortable. He blesses you so you can become a channel. You are a vessel of divine resources. When God shocks your bank account, it's not so you can boast, but so you can bless. You will feed families, fund visions, build futures, and lift lives. Your overflow will become someone else's answered prayer. That is the secret of divine increase. When God can trust you to be a river, not a reservoir. The more you release, the more He refills. Many of you are about to experience restoration. The years of loss, of stolen opportunities, of missed chances, God is about to repay them in one sweep of His hand. He will compress time for your sake. What you couldn't achieve in 10 years, He will give you in 1. Because when God steps into your finances, acceleration begins. You will move from not enough to more than enough, from scraping by to soaring high. And when people ask, how did this happen? You will simply smile and say, God did it. But hear me clearly. Before God shocks your bank account, He shocks your mindset. You cannot enter overflow with a poverty mentality. You cannot expect millions while speaking defeat. You must start thinking like someone who's already blessed. The moment you begin to act, plan, and speak like abundance is your normal, you invite it into your world. God doesn't fill empty wishes, He fills prepared vessels. Get ready. Clean your accounts, organize your plans, and build your vision boards, and prepare your spirit for increase. Because when the miracle comes, it will require management. There are seasons when God hides your blessing to test your faith. But when He decides to reveal it, He does it publicly. He doesn't just restore quietly, He restores loudly. People who once mocked your struggle will have to watch your promotion. Those who said, you'll never make it, will see your rise and be silenced by your results. Because when God blesses, He blesses openly. Your story will become a living sermon of divine provision. And you will say, truly, God remembers those who trust Him. Some of you are about to experience divine coincidences, meetings that seem random, but are perfectly timed by God. You will meet someone who becomes the link to your next level. You will receive a message that changes your financial destiny. You will stumble into an opportunity that feels too good to be true. But it's God's way of saying, I've remembered you. When God decides to favor you, everything starts to cooperate. People, systems, timing, even nature itself. All creation begins to align with your miracle. You've carried the pain long enough. The wilderness season has expired. God is turning your scarcity into surplus, your struggle into story, your poverty into purpose. You will look back on this time and realize that every delay was divine. Every closed door was protection. Every no was redirection. God was never late. He was preparing the perfect moment to shock you. And now, that moment is here. Expect divine surprises in your finances. Expect sudden favor. Expect the unusual. When you wake up, declare it. God is about to shock my bank account. When you go to bed, whisper it again. Keep your spirit in expectation. The atmosphere of faith is the birthplace of miracles. What you believe consistently, you will experience tangibly. Stop doubting and start thanking God in advance. Thank Him for the checks you haven't seen yet. Thank Him for the contracts not yet signed. Thank Him for the favor already forming. Gratitude opens the gate for abundance to enter. You are not broke, you are being built. You are not empty, you are being expanded. God is stretching you so He can fill you with more. Every struggle you endured was enlarging your capacity. Now you're ready. Heaven is releasing resources in your direction. What once felt like survival will now feel like overflow. What once was loss will now become legacy. This is your time. God is about to shock your bank account, not just with money, but with meaning, with stability, with freedom. Hold this truth in your heart. Your future is wealthier than your past. Your next chapter will not look like your last. God is not finished. He is just getting started. The same hands that struggled to pay bills will soon sign contracts that bless nations. The same lips that cried in frustration will soon testify in amazement. And when it happens, don't forget, it wasn't luck, it wasn't man, it was God. Your obedience is about to be rewarded. Your faith is about to produce fruit. Your persistence is about to pay off. Heaven has seen your seed, heard your prayer, and recorded your faithfulness. And now, the divine command has been given. Release the blessing. Prepare your heart, align your spirit, and keep your hands open. Because very soon, when you check that account, you will gasp, fall silent, and whisper, "This must be God." Listen closely, for this next moment in your spirit will not be ordinary. There is a divine wind moving even now. God is preparing to place something in your hands that will make every struggle worth it. You see, when God decides to change your financial story, He does it in a way that no one can take credit for. This is not about a promotion. This is not about a business idea. This is not about chance. This is about divine orchestration. God Himself will rewrite the economy of your life. He will shift what looked like nothing into more than enough. You have cried long enough. Now God says, "Watch me multiply what they said was finished." There are people who laughed at your faith, who mocked your prayers, who questioned your giving, who thought your hope was foolish, but they are about to witness the undeniable hand of God upon your finances. When God blesses you, He does not ask for permission. He does not check with your past or consult your background. He simply moves, and when He moves, nothing can stop Him. The doors that once refused to open will now swing wide without effort. The clients who once ignored your calls will now pursue you. The land you thought was beyond reach will soon bear your name. When God favors you, the laws of scarcity lose their power. But let me tell you something deeper. God's blessing is not only about wealth in numbers. It is about the expansion of your capacity. Before God fills your account, He fills your mind. Before He entrusts you with provision, He transforms your perspective. That's why the testing was long, because God was building you into a vessel that could hold abundance without pride, without fear, and without forgetting Him. Some people receive wealth and lose their wisdom. But when God is your foundation, wealth becomes worship. You will handle increase with reverence, not arrogance. You will see money as a servant, not a master. Many of you are stepping into a season of divine creativity. God is about to drop ideas into your spirit. Ideas that will carry the power to change your life forever. You will wake up with concepts that can create income streams. You will find yourself thinking thoughts that seem beyond your education, beyond your experience, beyond your environment, because they are not from you, they are from God. These are heaven-birthed ideas, and when you act on them, they will open financial gates that have been shut for years. God is about to anoint your imagination. When the hand of God rests on you, even small things begin to multiply. A single seed can become a forest. A single opportunity can create generational wealth. You must not underestimate what God can do with the little that remains. Remember, it is not about the size of what you hold, but about the size of the blessing that breathes upon it. God does not need millions to make you a miracle. He only needs your faith. If you will believe that He can turn your handful into a harvest, you will see it happen. God specializes in starting small and finishing great. Now, understand this truth: wealth does not flow toward confusion. It flows toward clarity. God will not pour into a vessel that has no direction. You must write down your vision, your goals, your plans. Align them with divine wisdom. When you show God that you are ready to steward increase, He will not withhold it. Many have prayed for abundance, but are not prepared for responsibility. Preparation is proof of expectation. Get your affairs in order, because what's coming will require structure. If your foundation is weak, the weight of the blessing could crush you. But if your foundation is firm, the flood of provision will lift you higher. There are seasons when God hides your provision until your character matures. Some of you were asking for financial increase while still holding on to habits that destroy increase. God delayed the blessing not to deny you, but to deliver you from what would have sabotaged it. He had to purify your motives, cleanse your hands, align your heart. Because when He blesses you this time, it will not come with sorrow. It will come with peace. The kind of peace that says, I no longer chase because God provides. Be careful how you speak in this season. Your words are seeds. The universe listens to the language of faith. Speak as if your account is already overflowing. Speak as if the miracle has already been released. Because when your words align with God's promise, your world begins to shift. Stop speaking lack. Start declaring abundance. Stop saying, I can't afford it. Start saying, God will provide it. The moment your tongue agrees with divine intention, the heavens begin to act on your behalf. You must also understand that sometimes God will shake your financial situation before He blesses it. He will allow certain doors to close so that you can stop depending on the wrong sources. You may lose a job, but gain a purpose. You may lose a contract, but gain a calling. You may lose people, but gain clarity. The shaking is not punishment, it is alignment. God is breaking attachments that limit your flow. When the shaking ends, you will see why it was necessary. The structures that once drained you will be replaced with streams that sustain you. Do not fear the unknown, because God is already there. He walks ahead of you into every opportunity. He inspects every door before you knock. He examines every transaction before you sign. You will not be deceived in this next season, because divine discernment will be your guard. You will know which opportunities are from God and which are distractions in disguise. Your spirit will sense the difference between prosperity that lifts you and wealth that traps you. God will give you wisdom that protects your harvest When the divine hand of blessing rests upon you, even the timing of your actions becomes perfect. You will find yourself in the right place at the right time, speaking to the right person. You will call someone just as they were thinking of blessing you. You will arrive somewhere at the precise moment opportunity opens. This is not coincidence, this is providence. When God decides to favor you, He synchronizes your steps with success. Listen, wealth without wisdom destroys, but wealth with divine purpose transforms. God is not about to make you rich, just to make you comfortable. He is about to make you a vessel of impact. Your abundance will feed orphans, build dreams, restore dignity, and shift generations. You will use your wealth to break cycles of poverty and despair. This is why the blessing is coming with such power, because God trusts your heart. He knows that you will not forget the source when you receive the supply. There will come a day soon when you will look at your life and realize that everything changed when you decided to believe that God could shock your bank account. That belief ignited heaven's movement, because belief is not passive. It is active energy. It pulls unseen realities into visible form. When you believe with conviction, you give permission for heaven to invade your circumstances. Faith is not fantasy, it is partnership. When your faith meets God's power, impossibilities collapse. I see you walking into a season where money will no longer control your emotions. You will no longer panic at bills or stress over deadlines. You will operate from peace, knowing that God is your provider. You will manage resources with confidence, not fear, because you will understand that true wealth is not the number in your account, it is the peace in your soul. And when peace becomes your foundation, prosperity becomes your companion. Let me tell you something powerful. God does not bless laziness, He blesses diligence. When you put your hands to work with faith, God multiplies your effort. This is the moment to act, to move, to build. Start the project, write the proposal, launch the business, send the message. Faith without movement is empty. God cannot multiply what you refuse to plant. The same God who gives the vision will give the provision, but He expects you to start walking. As you move, resources will appear. As you act, favor will locate you. Be careful not to compare your journey with others. God's timing for you is unique. While some may seem ahead, your breakthrough may be hidden in the process. A fruit that ripens early spoils quickly, but one that matures in season nourishes deeply. God has been ripening your miracle in secret. The wait was not delay, it was preparation. And when it comes, it will last. You won't just have wealth, you'll have stability. You won't just have increase, you'll have longevity. Because God builds for eternity, not for applause. There is also something powerful happening in the unseen. Debts being erased, systems being shifted, names being spoken in high places. God is aligning resources for your sake. Someone right now is planning to favor you without even knowing why. Papers are being signed, opportunities are being positioned, ideas are being conceived, all to fulfill what God promised you. You are about to walk into answered prayers that were sent years ago, but were waiting for divine timing. Do not be surprised when people you never expected begin to bless you. God uses vessels, not always the ones you anticipate. He can use strangers to deliver your blessing. He can use institutions to honor you. He can use even your enemies to fund your destiny. Because when God commands favor, it obeys. It doesn't negotiate, it manifests. Your name is being whispered in rooms of decision. Your work is being remembered by those in authority. Your faith is being rewarded by the one who sees everything. Now hear this truth deep in your spirit. What God is about to do in your finances is not just addition, it is multiplication. He is about to accelerate your growth. The numbers will not rise gradually, they will leap. The opportunities will not trickle, they will flood. The provision will not be partial, it will be overwhelming. God is about to shift your financial level so drastically that even you will have to take a moment to catch your breath. You will stare at the numbers and whisper, "This cannot be real." But it will be real because God has decided that it is your time. You are not here by accident. This message is your confirmation. God has seen your faith, your tears, your perseverance. He has watched you sow when you had little, give when you were tired, and trust when nothing made sense. Now He is responding. He is about to move so powerfully that even your enemies will admit that something divine is happening. You will not need to defend your faith. Your results will speak for you. Stay humble when the abundance comes. Remember that wealth is a tool, not a throne. The more God blesses you, the lower your heart must bow in gratitude, because gratitude keeps the flow alive. The moment pride enters, the stream begins to dry. But when humility governs your heart, God keeps pouring. You will become a living testimony of divine generosity. Someone whose life proves that obedience to God produces supernatural results. My friend, hear me with your heart, not just your ears. You are standing at the edge of a divine turning point. What has looked like stagnation is not the end. It is the quiet before breakthrough so great that even you will not be able to explain it. God has been working behind the curtain of your circumstances, arranging every detail, aligning every opportunity, and preparing every resource. He has been silent because He has been strategic. He has been invisible because He has been intentional. The delay was never denial, it was divine design. The hands of heaven are now moving in your favor. There are moments in life when God tests how much you truly trust Him. When your account is empty, when every door seems closed, when you've done everything right and still see no results, that's when your faith is weighed. Those moments are not meant to break you, they are meant to build you. Because before God trusts you with abundance, He must see if you can still praise Him in the absence. Can you still give thanks when the bills pile up? Can you still believe when you can't see the outcome? If you can remain steadfast in those moments, you are ready for what is coming. God blesses those who trust His timing more than their feelings. God is not limited by your salary, your job, or your background. He can shift your financial destiny in a single moment. He can turn one connection, one conversation, one phone call into a fountain of increase. But here's the secret. He does it when your heart is free from fear. Fear blocks favor. Worry stops the flow. The moment you let go of anxiety and start believing that God is your ultimate provider, you create space for miracles. Faith is not just believing that God can do it. Faith is knowing that He will. When your spirit settles in that certainty, everything around you begins to align. There are people right now who are living testimonies of this truth. They once had nothing, yet one divine moment changed everything. God took their obedience, their faith, their humility, and turned it into abundance. The same God who did it for them is about to do it for you. He is not partial. He is not selective. He honors principles. And the principle is simple. When you put your trust in Him, He releases provision. The same wind of blessing that lifted others is about to lift you. Sometimes God allows your bank account to run dry so you can learn that He is not your last resort. He is your only source. When every human option fails, when every system closes, when every backup plan falls apart, that's when you finally discover the power of divine supply. And when you reach that point, something in you shifts. You stop chasing money, and money starts chasing you. You stop begging, and you start attracting. Because now your faith is rooted not in numbers, but in God. You see, wealth without peace is a curse. Many people have money but no rest. They build empires but lose sleep. They gain possessions but lose purpose. But when God blesses you, He adds peace with it. You will have wealth and wisdom, abundance and alignment. You will not only have things, you will have meaning. You will not just survive, you will thrive. And your heart will remain anchored in gratitude. That is the kind of blessing that lasts. The coming blessing is not for you to spend recklessly. It's for you to build strategically. God is about to fund your assignment. The ideas you've carried in silence, the dreams you've buried under pressure, the visions you've been afraid to speak, those are not fantasies. They are blueprints from God. And when He releases provision, it's not just so you can buy more, it's so you can build more. Build lives, build legacies, build light where there was darkness. The resources coming your way are for kingdom work. To heal, to help, to restore. When God blesses you, He expects you to multiply the blessing. You are not just called to be a receiver, you are called to be a distributor. The divine economy functions through flow, not hoarding. What you release determines what returns. The more you give, the more God entrusts you with, because every time you let go of what's in your hand, you give Him permission to fill it again. Don't close your hands in fear. Keep them open in faith. Because open hands receive open heavens. You are about to witness God move through unconventional means. Expect income from places you never considered. Expect favor from people you never met. Expect opportunities that don't follow your resume. God is not restricted to logic. He operates through divine creativity. He can make your name known in high places without you ever promoting yourself. He can breathe life into an idea you thought was forgotten. He can use your smallest effort to produce your largest breakthrough. Because when His blessing breathes on your work, results multiply without effort. So I say to you now, expect the unexpected, expect the sudden, expect the impossible. God is not bound by human laws. He can cause a system to change for your sake. He can cause a policy to be rewritten because of your name. He can make a path appear in the desert. What looks empty to you is full to Him. You see a bank account, God sees a future. You see lack, God sees potential. You see delay, God sees timing. His perspective is higher, His plans are deeper, and His promises are sure. The time for fear is over. The time for small thinking is done. Lift your faith higher. Walk like someone who is already blessed. Speak like someone who knows that the Creator of all things has chosen to favor you. Live as if you already have the overflow, because in the realm of faith you do. What you believe consistently, you will eventually see physically. God is about to shock your bank account, not for vanity, but for victory, not for pleasure, but for purpose, not for status, but for stewardship. Get ready, because the same God who sustained you in lack is about to surprise you in abundance.